Good afternoon, everyone. This is another episode of Hot Route Takes, the Week 17 recap show. Apologies for a couple late days on getting this out to you guys, but with the New Year's Eve scheduling conflicts, we just had a tough time getting together last night. So we do this on Monday night instead and get this ready for you guys and get to Week 18 when we talk on Wednesday for the final week of regular season action. Uh, Tremendous how much this football season has flown by, and it's been a lot of fun. And really, week 17, I don't know if I had more fun than I have all year. I mean, how can I not personally, as a Ravens fan, for the performance we put together uh, week 17 against Brian's Dolphins, Lamar's performance, clinching the one seed, all of those good things we will get into when we get to that. But as always, we're going to start off this recap show with the Thursday night game, and it wasn't a significant one because the Cleveland Browns took care of business at home. Joe Flacco, another great performance, clinching a playoff spot. 11-5, they still have an outside chance. Well, they're locked into the 5 seed. They can't win the division. But just the way they're playing, man, they look like a tough out come playoff time. I'm not sure what they're going to be doing next week, if they still want to play starters or whatnot for seeding purposes, but we'll see against Cincinnati. But besides that, Thursday night against the Jets, the team they're supposed to beat at home, very sound performance. As I said, defense just doing what they've done all year. They look like a dangerous team. So we won't spend too much time on that. We'll get to the Saturday game, which was very, very, very controversial there at the end. The Cowboys taking a 20-19 victory over the Detroit Lions at home. 2-point play made rounds on Twitter and NFL landscape because did he report eligible? Did he not? The refs seemed to confirm it. All these things, but instead of talking of that one play, because it's really been talked about ad nauseum by everybody at this point, Brian, I know you watched a lot of this football game. Maybe you just want to touch on what you saw previous to this play from the Lions and the Cowboys, because they very clearly look like two of the better teams in the NFC, and they could see each other again in the playoffs.
Yeah, I thought that Dallas really played better ball throughout the course of the night. Just had several key turnovers, man. Obviously the one where CeeDee Lamb caught the ball, fumbled out the back of the end zone, but there was also a Dak Prescott fumble and a Dak Prescott interception. The Lions did have two interceptions themselves, Jared Goff, but just in general, I thought Dallas played a little bit more clean football outside of the obvious turnovers. 345 yards passing for Dak Prescott. The Lions did have a little bit more going on the ground, but it wasn't their typical outing, I would say. Dallas did put up a nice fight as it comes to establishing the line of scrimmage. So, I really do think the refs kind of took one from Detroit in this one, because they very clearly had this plan from the beginning. I know Dan Campbell went up to the refs, talked to them, said, this is what we're going to do. This is who's going to report as eligible. And they still managed to get it wrong at the end of the game, and it cost Detroit the game. So as far as Detroit goes, you can't really do anything else but prepare. That's what they did, and they still got bit by the refs. So tough one there, but Dallas does pull it out.
I will step in and say that I'm thankful to see the NFL take action and actually punish these refs.
Yeah.
They have
Yeah.
been demoted. They will not be officiating NFL playoff games, and Brad Allen's crew will not. And I think that's appropriate punishment, because that was a direct influence on seeding in the NFC.
Sure.
Could be the difference between Detroit playing Dallas at home or on the road now. So interesting stuff there. And that was it for the early games of the week. Then we get to Sunday, and for the 1 o'clock slate, guys, we all were together watching Ravens Dolphins in one setting, so we didn't get a chance to pay attention to a lot of these games. But another reason we're recording on Monday to have time look back at the highlights and some of the tape from these 1 o'clock window games we may have missed out on while watching the others, and just give a chance to quick break down these for you. The first one here, Christian, I'll let you take. Me and you both had the Bears, and man, they looked very dominant in a blizzard game in Chicago at home. 37-17 final. Justin Fields had a day. Chicago is not going to make the playoffs, but they have just been one of the better NFC football teams in the second half. Whereas Atlanta, they really needed that game. They're still technically in it. Week 18 can win the South, but they need things to break their way now. They really shot themselves in the foot, and Justin Fields was the catalyst for that. So, Christian, what did you see from the Bears and the Falcons for that matter?
Yeah, for Chicago, I think, everyone's seen the chance that they want Justin Fields to stay, and we've all on the spot kind of agree that that should be the decision moving forward. But I think my biggest takeaway is, this was a snow game. Justin Fields went out, had a bunch of deep passes, definitely to DJ Moore. Then my biggest takeaway was Khalil Herbert coming back from injury. They're not having a real true number one running back. And then he came back and had the day he had. So I just think that's a big takeaway for the Chicago team, and actually seeing when they have all healthy guys what this team could be. This Atlanta's defense, I can say it's been a great unit, but it's been a pretty impressive unit throughout the year. Then on Atlanta side, I mean, we've seen Desmond Ritter for a little bit in that game, but really it was Taylor Heineke's show. But we've seen the 3 interceptions, Desmond Ritter interception. So Atlanta on that side, man, I just think, Arthur Smith, we talked about. At this point, I think he needs to go. If it happens, it happens. But Taylor Heineke and Desmond Ritter's not the answer in Atlanta. I don't know what they're going to do in the offseason, but both of these guys are not it. And we've talked a lot about the talent on this team. I'm not going to go too far down that hole either, but just, you got Drake London only with 4 catches, Kyle Pitts with 1 catch. I understand it's a snow game, but I could turn the script on you real quick and say, Justin Fields didn't have a problem doing it.
Yes, impressive stuff from Chicago, given the way their season started and the finish. Their fans should be very encouraged. Interesting offseason, maybe the more interesting watch. We'll talk about that in the offseason. Is where the direction they're going to go, because they have a top pick thanks to Carolina, and they have a quarterback that looks like could be a franchise quarterback. He's proven that. Yeah. So the team will keep an eye on in the offseason. Credits for them for playing good football these last few weeks. Next up, guys, Brian, I'm going to throw it to you for this Rams-Giants matchup. The Rams squeaked it out, 26-25 victory on the road. Mason Crosby had a chance to win the game with a walk-off 50-yarder or so, and was unable to hit. Matt Stafford, not his best day, a few turnovers, but all in all, the Rams keeping their foot and their head above the pack in that NFC wildcard chase. So a win in Week 17 will never do bad things for them, and credit to them. Would you see, Brian, from the Rams offense and defense to allow them to squeak this game out?
Well, I think they got away with one here, because I think that the offense was moving like they had been all season, but they had a couple interceptions mixed in there that were a little unfortunate, but it happened, and that caused them to be in a position to lose this game. And if it wasn't for Tyrod Taylor missing a 5-yard little shovel pass, or whatever you want to call what he tried to do, they got away with this one. I mean, just simple as that, because it was just a simple handoff, basically, away from them scoring a 2-point conversion and then winning this game, the Giants. And one other thing I wanted to say, as far as the Giants go, Tyrod Taylor made this offense a lot better. I know the Rams don't have the best defense out there, but it looked better. I mean, I've seen this Giants offense several times this year, and back when Daniel Jones was playing. Out of all the quarterbacks I've seen play, Daniel Jones, that's when it looked rock bottom, man. And it sucks to say that, but it really seems to be the truth. We'll see what Daniel Jones looks like next year. Maybe he'll be healthy, confident, all that. But the Rams got away with one here.
Yep, I would agree with everything you said there, Brian. The next one in the AFC playoff picture, we have the Colts picking up a home victory over the Las Vegas Raiders, 23-20 final there. Colts sit atop the AFC South. Still 3 teams, all the teams that came in Week 17 tied atop, each came out with a victory. The Colts, the first one we're going to touch on here, moving to 9-7. Christian, Colts been a team you've really ridden all year. They find themselves in a position to make the playoffs come Week 18, and they'll be facing a team battling. They're battling for that position. So, what do you see Week 17 against the Raiders that allowed them to play good defense and really put up enough points to come out with this victory?
Yeah, my big takeaway is Garner Minshew. Had a good day. I ain't gonna say a great day, but no interceptions. That's kind of been when we've seen them on the side of losing. That's been the number one issue, is him turning the ball over. But I get to see Jonathan Taylor getting a good workload, no injuries through the game, got 96 yards, the 1 touchdown. Michael Pittman's game back wasn't anything crazy, but he did have the 5 catches, 46 yards. But moving forward, I think that's the big key for Joshua Downs, Michael Pittman, and all these guys. Definitely Jonathan Taylor, stay healthy for what the future is going to be. And I just think, against a team that the Raiders have really, surprised a couple people, you can say, but I just think, the Colts defense did what they needed to. They were 5 for 15 on third downs. And then on the other side, I mean, I just think all around the Colts needed this one, the division. I mean, we hadn't talked about it yet, but there's 3 teams that are all 9-7 in that division. So the Colts had to win this one. And moving forward, I mean, this defense, but the division, I would love to see how it's going to pan out in this last week.
Yeah, it's interesting because the next game I'm recapping here is the Houston Texans, who came out victorious at home over the Tennessee Titans. They got their guy C.J. Stroud back at the quarterback position this week, and it really wasn't a lights out performance from him. He played very fine, great football like he's done all year. But the 26-3 victory was really catalyzed by this defense racking up 6 sacks. They knocked Will Levis out of the game for a minute. Tennessee's offense is not a powerhouse unit, but it had nothing going against this Houston defense. So that sets up for the probably highest stakes game of Week 18 and one of. It's for the division, AFC South champion possibly coming from this game. The Texans will be playing the Colts on a Saturday, actually. So that's the only game. It'll have the nation watching it. And then you got to pay attention to obviously what Jacksonville does as well, because seems like the winner of that, and if Jacksonville wins, it's going to come down to tiebreakers to who wins that division. So next up, another team that put themselves in position to win their division next week is the Buffalo Bills. Although it was not the performance any of us expected, we thought they would handle their business a little more emphatically in Week 17, but in the end, it's a 27-21 victory at home against the New England Patriots. Bills defense really had a day, and Josh Allen, not the best day, but he put together enough to win the game. So, Brian, the AFC East is really taking shape, and for Miami's dominance all year, it's going to come down to Week 18. We'll get to that in the preview, but maybe just touch on what you saw Week 17 and maybe what things could shape for this Bills team to improve, or things that concern you for Miami Week 18 that you saw in this game.
Well, I thought that the Patriots played very much to their script and gave themselves a chance to win here. It's been more of the same. Just don't have enough on offense, man. Their defense came to play really through Josh Allen, something he might not have seen before, because he went 15-30, 169 yards and a pick. It was much worse than that for the majority of the game. I think he got a little bit going later on, but just a good schemed up defensive performance by Bill Belichick, winning in the margins on special teams, kickoff return to open the game, and then just it's the same thing. It's been biting them all year. 3 picks, man, from Bailey Zappi. And he could have benched and had Mac Jones come in and got more of the same. But just not enough to win games there in New England. But on the Bills side of things, this is 2 weeks in a row now. Winning games, but cutting it a little close to teams you probably should have blown out.
Yes. So a team that's not really giving their fan base much confidence, but if you told Bills fans that they have a chance to win the division in a matchup come Week 18, I think they all would have signed up for that, given where they were earlier in the season. So credit to them, credit that coaching staff to turning things around. As we get towards the NFC side here, a team that's really on a landslide right now is the Philadelphia Eagles. 11-5 now and dropping a home game to the Arizona Cardinals. None of us had this game picked Cardinals an upset, none of us. And the Eagles, man, I truly don't know what to say about this team. It's a team that I have no confidence in going into the playoffs. They're going to be there, but they could have locked up the East by taking care of business. Now that's going to come to Week 18. The Cowboys or the Eagles can still be the 2 seed, and one's going to be the 5 seed. A huge difference for home field in the postseason. So interesting stuff. I don't know what to make of Philadelphia's offense anymore. Jalen Hurts, he just hasn't been the same MVP candidate he was last year. And that ground game is just not there. Swift leading the way with 61 yards, but nothing was really explosive on that side of the ball. And the defense isn't racking up sacks and getting turnovers like they were last year. So concerning stuff out of Philadelphia. We'll talk more about them in the preview show for Week 18 and what maybe we can expect come next week. But concerning stuff for that fan base. We'll move it along to the NFC South. Christian, your Bucks, just when we all really believed in everything we were seeing, they had winners of 4 in a row, I believe. They drop a home game, a chance to really ice the NFC South division. They drop it to the New Orleans Saints, 23-13 final. Both teams now sit at 8-8 entering Week 18. Saints defense had a day against your guy Baker, Christian. So, what concerned you for the Bucs in that game, and or what was it that the Saints did that was able to allow them to take this game?
I mean, the Bucks. My big thing that the Saints did is, I mean, the running back White we've seen week in and week out kind of have big games over and over, and they really took him out the game. I mean, he had 11 carries, 42, and then in the receiving game where he's really been eating teams up, he only had 4 catches, 24 yards. And that's really, I mean, if we really broke down their offenses for the last couple of weeks, him and Mike Evans has been the 1 and 2 guy that's really been carrying this offense. And once we seen that happened, I mean, even Mike Evans got taken out the game. It was 3 for 70. So then they had to go to like Trey Palmer, Chris Godwin, that hadn't been having great years at all. So to me, I mean, the Saints defense, we've said, is a pretty good unit. Their head coach is a defensive guy, and he knew what the assignment was and got his team ready to win, and they did it. And then on the Bucs side, I mean, they did take Alvin Kamara went out the game, but by the time he was out, I mean, it was already ugly. So the Bucs, started late. Baker went 2 interceptions. So, I mean, I'm not going to go ahead and say Baker's back to maybe his old ways. He really hadn't been doing that all year until this game. So I think, next week's a big week for both of these teams and who they're playing. But I will say, Taysom Hill did get his touchdown like he always does out of the blue every once in a while. And then Juwan Johnson, man, I'm going to go ahead and say I watched, the highlights like I said. He made some crazy catches in this game. I mean, insane grabs. Derek Carr had a very impressive game. No turnovers. That's been kind of a big problem with him this year. But I just think moving forward for both of these teams, it's the same thing I just said about the last team I talked about. I mean, this division is going to come down to next week, who they're playing, how they go about their wins. And I think right now it's Tampa's to lose it. But, I mean, not the game I wanted it to turn out to be, but, Baker probably big bounce back, I hope. And then Derek Carr, I will say I'm impressed with how he played against the Tampa defense. It's been kind of stepping up the last couple of weeks.
I'd agree with you there, Christian. Next up, we have the dominant team of the NFC clinching the number 1 seed thanks to Philadelphia's loss as well. The Niners take a road victory over the Washington Commanders, 27-10 final there. Just big bounce back stuff from San Fran, especially on the defense, for really getting picked apart by Lamar Jackson the previous week, and just stepping up, getting some pressure on Sam Howell, got 2 picks off of Sam Howell. And then you flip to the other side. Christian McCaffrey actually leaves this game early with the calf injury, which if I had to venture to guess, if they were playing for something next week, he'd probably be able to suit up and go. But good for them. They're not. He is able to rest. And Elijah Mitchell stepped up in this game, totaled 80 yards on the ground. He really didn't leave off anything, any much less production than McCaffrey would have, because he's a very viable RB2. So Brock Purdy, San Fran offense, and San Fran defense bouncing back to clinch the 1 seed is what good teams are supposed to do. So credit to them. We won't spend too much more time on that. The next up is the final AFC South team we had to get to that sit at 9-7 now. That is the Jacksonville Jaguars, who pulled out a 26-0 shutout victory at home over the Carolina Panthers. We really talked about this one in the preview as a potential upset, especially with Trevor Lawrence not suiting up in this one. But just when Bryce Young put together his best performance of the year last week, just nothing at all in this Jacksonville defense come week 17. They were a finely screwed, knitted, whatever you want to call, like on schedule defensive unit. Like they did not fall for anything Bryce Young had and the intermediate stuff. No run game from Chuba Hubbard. And ETN, finally, right? Brian, how much have you talked about ETN stepping up? He finally breaks the 100-yard mark in the season in a game, and he reeled off a long one in this one. Just better stuff for Jacksonville to be the team we think they can be. This is what they need to do better, play better defense, and take care of the ball. And it took Trevor Lawrence not suiting up for that to happen. It's going to take him suiting up and this type of performance still occurring for it to lead to playoff wins. So that's all we're going to say on that. The next one is the final 1 o'clock game, the game we all watched together. So I'll let us all give our takes on this one. My Ravens clinching the number 1 seed, probably about it, the best performance of the year. And especially from offense, I think Lamar just pretty much played a perfect game and locked up MVP. 56-19 final for the Ravens at home over Brian's Dolphins. So I'll let each of you give your takes on what you saw from each team, what you think about these teams going forward, and if you learned anything about either side. So, Brian, why don't you lead us off about your Dolphins and what went down in this game that left you discouraged?
Well, I think Xavier Howard going down pretty early in the game hurts a little bit because they just went after Eli Apple all game, kind of exposed some of the weaknesses we had in their zone match coverage. I mean, they found this leak play out into the flat to the left several times in big moments for touchdowns and down the field, Zay Flowers. I mean, I just think Lamar really solidified his MVP case, and this was the week where he kind of proved it. If there's any doubt who's getting the award, I don't think there is anymore. And it's because of this game here. And then Miami offensively, I think Hill was still banged up a little bit. I don't think he was his normal explosive self. He came down kind of awkwardly early in the game as well. So I know he was kind of limping through the game. And so Miami offensively, you're kind of out without Hill, Waddle, Mostert. I mean, that's, I don't know, 3,500 yards of offense so far this year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big deal, I think. And then, missing your 3 interior offensive linemen, what has made this Miami offense feast all season has been to be able to get the ball out quick to guys that are open and having a pocket as well. And you take away the guys getting open, now the pocket's not holding up for, other routes to develop, and it kind of spelled disaster. And that's what we saw in this game. I thought Tua actually was playing pretty well in the first half until the 2-minute warning where he threw that pick. I think that's where everything just started unraveling. The levees broke, and it just started going downhill from there for Miami. I just think that the Ravens are a very good team. I'm not going to take anything away from them, but I do think a healthier Miami, things might have looked a little different. But that isn't to say Baltimore didn't have their own injuries, because they did, but I think Lamar was able to mask it, make things happen on offense, and the offensive line gave him time. So, whether that's an indictment on Miami's pass rush or Baltimore's offensive line, I'm not sure at this point in time, but credit to Baltimore, good win.
What you got, Christian?
I think, I don't know if Brian will agree with this, but I think when Tyreek Hill missed the touchdown, missed it, it seemed like after that, all momentum went straight to Baltimore, and it didn't go back after that. I think honestly, to me, if Miami scores there, I ain't gonna say it changes this outcome, because you look at the outcome of this game, I don't think one touchdown is really gonna change a lot, but I just think Tyreek Hill catches that, and then it gets a lot closer at halftime. They go in, and maybe y'all don't get down the field as quick, but I think at the end of the day, y'all capitalized on something that Tua, you can say, hadn't done a lot this year, and that's the interceptions. Raekwon got the one, and then he tipped the other one. So, you can say Raekwon might be player of the game in this game in reality, but that was to me, what was the game changer, because Miami hasn't been a team to turn over the ball. And then, A-Chain was having a field day running. Until eventually y'all slowed it down a little bit, but there was multiple times that, you pop up on the screen, what's the rest of the team doing and what he's doing. He was leading the way. And I think, like we've talked about a Waddle not being there, they have to find another way, someone to be something to juice the offense. But I think, ultimately just the defense shown a lot to me in this game. And Lamar Jackson, Bateman had a wide open first play of the game. X reaching for his toes. That's the play he probably got hurt on, and Bateman just dropped it. But I just think, I said it was going to come down to home run plays. And in reality, it kind of did. Baltimore had the more explosive plays, and just, it was really Tyreek Hill, A-Chain, and then just, we talked about it with each other. Just when one of those wide receivers go down for Miami, the next guy up, it's just such a big gap, you can say, between those. It just really hurts the offense, and where Tua is used to being, hey, this guy's going to be here. We got a Cedric Wilson and definitely, Chase Claypool missing a ball in the end zone. Tua's not going to trust those guys like he does his 1 and 2 that he's used to playing with.
100%. My takeaway is, as lopsided as the score was, I think these are, when they're clicking, two of the best offenses in football, along with San Francisco. Both Ravens defense beat up without Kyle Hamilton, and then no Marlon Humphrey for the majority of the game. I think that kind of offsets the Waddle injury. But Miami's still moving the ball, and really what it came down to is the Ravens forcing those 2 turnovers, a la Roquan Smith making plays on both of those to get the game script a little extended and lead extended and force Miami to, even though they're having a ton of success running the ball, they have to pass to catch up.
Yep.
And that really let the pass rush pin their ears back and make some things happen. So I'm just going to reel off some Lamar stats because he played a perfect game. He wrapped up the MVP Sunday. His EPA on per drop back was 1.3 EPA per drop back, the third most by QB in the Next Gen Stats era since 2016. He has the top 3 games ever in that category. He had a perfect passer rating in that game, a PFF grade of 95, his highest of the year. There's the other one I have here somewhere. The Ravens have now won 10 games against teams with a winning record, most in the NFL. Lamar's the league high 21 touchdowns, most in the NFL against teams with a winning record. He finished 5 of 6 for 171 yards and 2 touchdowns against the blitz. Just anything they could throw at him, he had an answer for. And I'm kind of, at this point, I'm done with anyone that wants to have a conversation that Lamar's not a good thrower of the football. If that's the conversation, I'm just not going to listen because he's kind of proven that it's not the case. And it's never going to be the case because he's really good in the pocket. So that's it. Obviously, a big game for the AFC 1 seed. Great for the Ravens to win that and hold on. And now they get to rest up week 18 and the bye week, get their key guys, Hamilton and Marlon Humphrey, all these guys healthy, ready to go for the division round. So that was a huge, huge win in that case. So that's all we're going to touch on with Ravens Dolphins. As I think, Brian, we just lost for a second. Hopefully he can get back in here, Christian. We've got a few 4 o'clock games we're going to churn through and hopefully get Brian's thoughts on these last ones. If not, we'll just finish up ourselves. But the first one, Christian, I know you touched and watched on this one extensively. You picked the Steelers, the lone guy to pick the Steelers in this game, and Mason Rudolph is engineering a good offense right now. And to go into Seattle and win this game 30-23 against a Seahawks team that is fighting for playoff positioning, a playoff spot in the NFC, just solid stuff from Pittsburgh and Mason Rudolph. And this solidifies Mike Tomlin for another winning season, his 17th of the year. Pittsburgh now 9-7, no matter what Baltimore does week 18. Even if we beat them, they will have a winning record. But obviously, they need to win at week 18 against most likely resting Ravens because they need a playoff spot still. So this game, though, defense played well enough, that is, and the ground game really got going behind Najee Harris. Christian, what did you see from the Steelers offense that encouraged you to make this pick and ultimately end up being right?
Yeah, I mean, crazy enough, it is Mason Rudolph. I mean, I'd love to see him maybe start the year. I mean, nobody would have said that to begin the year, but with him out there, the offense, just definitely George Pickens. Him and George Pickens have a connection. It's blowing my mind, but I think Mason Rudolph makes this offense look a whole lot better. And then, I mean, Najee Harris, I mean, I'm sorry, Najee, for, saying you're slow and everything in the past pods. Man, this has impressed me. You've proved me wrong. And I mean, had a day, 27 carries for 122, 2 touchdowns. And like I said, just Mason Rudolph getting George Pickens the ball. We see that they've been needing a guy to be really that one guy on their team. And it's been George Pickens since Mason Rudolph took over. So I just think with this new, Mason Rudolph starting and then this defense being as great as it was, my big takeaway was, I mean, if Mason Rudolph can do what he did last week, get these guys the ball, he did it. And I expected as long as he could do that and the Pittsburgh defense play what they've been doing, they could beat Seattle. But, I mean, Seattle, I just, I know they depend a lot on that running game. I ain't going to say a whole lot, but they want to get the running backs involved, and I knew, Pittsburgh wouldn't allow that. So I will say DK Metcalf, I mean, 5 catches, 106 yards. So, I mean, they did, get the ball going. Geno Smith, I mean, a good game for him to come back. And, this is his second game back since Drew Lock kind of shown that he could be a reasonable starter for this team. But at the end of the day, I just think it comes down to the defense, who was the better unit on defense, and it was the Pittsburgh Steelers. And, I mean, Mason Rudolph, Kenny Pickett, when all these guys are healthy, I'd love to see what direction the Steelers go because they have shown multiple times in the past that they're going with what's best for the team, not what's the money is or any of that. That's just history repeating itself with this team. So hopefully Mason Rudolph can keep it up. But I mean, definitely when it comes to if they do make it into the playoffs, I'd like to see how Mason Rudolph and this Pittsburgh team, if they keep this offense performance going like this.
Yeah, we'll just have to see. But in the end, it's guaranteed another winning season for Mike Tomlin. So credit to him. I don't know how he does it, man, but just solid stuff.
Hey, I want to just do the next transition, man. Christian,
Yeah.
what did you see in this game, brother? The Broncos and the Chargers. It looked like a jam-packed action game, my guy.
It was
I'm
jam-packed action. I seen Lamar throw for 321 yards, 5 touchdowns. Works the
baby.
defense. It's supposed to be a good unit. But man, I mean, it was an ugly first quarter for both teams. Just the offense could not, get in the end zone. That's the goal for the offense. So that did not happen. So Austin Eckler is dead. I pronounced him retired, dead, off the Chargers roster. Then there's another guy, we could have had Zay Flowers, but we got this guy that was amazing, a steal. Quentin Johnson, 3 catches, 29 yards. I mean, we got Alex Eckerson, 82. Probably said his last name wrong because, never heard of the guy. So he did have 98 yards, look impressive. Maybe he can take Quentin Johnson's role on the team. I mean, I think that'd be a good move moving forward. But, I mean, for Denver, we talked a lot about we couldn't believe they were benching Russell Wilson. But, Sean Payton, you can say what you want to. They got to win. Jerry Jeudy got involved. Little Jordan Humphrey, when he did get his touchdown, he ran through the whole Chargers defense, all of them. But I'm not, maybe you can say that's impressive, but I'm not too impressed with it. But I just, it was a wonderful game for the Chargers. I'm glad we did lose for my draft pick, but, third down conversions, we were 2 for 11. It was nice.
I was about to say it, Christian. Honestly, the way Week 17 went, probably really good for your Chargers because you see teams like Arizona pick up a win. Chicago solidified themselves as picking after y'all now. There's not a whole lot of teams that's going to be fighting to pick before y'all. So the higher that pick goes up to, the better for this organization. And what they do with it is going to be the telltale sign of what they do to build around Justin Herbert going forward. Denver, whole saga drama we really touched on all week in the preview show with the Russell Wilson benching. They sit at 8-8 and a chance to still make the playoffs in the AFC. Interesting stuff. As I look at the standings and pull these things up really quick, a lot of teams still technically able to work their way into the playoffs. I want to pull up each side here. Playoff picture. In the AFC, no, Denver actually was eliminated based off tiebreakers. They sit at 8-8, but they're eliminated. So 9 teams fighting for 7 spots in the AFC. The clinching teams, Baltimore, Miami, KC, and Cleveland. That leaves Jacksonville, Buffalo, Indy, Houston, and Pittsburgh fighting for those final spots. And you get to the NFC, guys. Oh, my goodness. 10 teams still available to be in the playoffs. The Niners have clinched the 1 seed. The Cowboys and Lions have clinched spots, as well as the Eagles and Rams. Then you have the Bucks, Packers, Seahawks, Saints, and Vikings all fighting Week 18 for a playoff spot. So we will touch on all of those teams, all of their matchups extensively when we get into the preview show next time. Before we do that, we have one last game to get our thoughts on, I believe. Two more. It's going to be the AFC Chiefs winning against the AFC North Bengals. The Chiefs really still playing pretty sloppy, but as we all kind of predicted, we thought they wouldn't really clean all the mistakes up in 1 week, but they would do enough to win this game. And they did. 25-17 home victory over the Bengals. I don't know about y'all. I didn't catch a ton of this game, but the highlights I did see, it like Pacheco being back and healthy was the key difference, which we touched on a lot. So 18 carries for $130. That's really what drove this performance. I'll let each of you guys go ahead and say anything you had from this ball game.
Yeah, Pacheco and Rice combined for 260 yards of offense. That's
Yeah,
what fixed the
those are the
offense
two guys.
this week. Yep.
Yes.
That's all I had, though.
Christian, anything from this football game?
Travis Kelce, where are you? Is my biggest. I don't know. What to say, but 3 catches, 16 yards. Don't think we'd ever say we'd see that out of him. But moving forward, if this team does, they look like we'll be in the playoffs. They need Travis Kelce 100%. They can't depend on. Rice did play good this game, but it's hard to depend on a rookie wide receiver in a playoff game that you need to know that hey, this guy's gonna be here 100%. So I don't know if he's 100% Travis Kelce. You can argue if Taylor Swift's did something to my guy, or he's made so much money off a commercial that he made more than his contract. So he's looking for his next commercial.
2 for
Yeah,
1.
Chiefs, we're going to have a hard time picking them wild card weekend. I know they're going to be at home because they win the division, but it looks like they could be playing Cleveland, Miami, Buffalo, or someone like a Houston. All those teams just look better right now, and we'll get to that when it comes. But interesting stuff in Arrowhead and from the Chiefs all year. So I think that performance is really a microcosm of why they ended up in the seeding that they have ended up this 2023-24 football season. So last one, the primetime game, guys, was an NFC North matchup. The Packers truly dominating. Jordan Love has, I'd say, made the biggest leap since, say, week 5 or 6. He's looked like a borderline top 10 guy. Like, he's cleaned out all the mistakes, and although he didn't have a Christian Watson or a Wicks in this game, he gets production from Aaron Jones in the backfield, and when he's there, we touch on this offense is completely different, and then he just finds whoever is open. Tonight or other night was Melton, getting him 6 catches for 105 yards and a touchdown. Great stuff from Green Bay offense, and they dominated this game, and the defense really shut down the carousel QBs of Minnesota and gave them no hope of winning this football game. So, Brian, I know you watched a lot of this one, a 33-10 final victory for Green Bay. What did you see from that offense to spark your hope for them to make a run at it in the playoffs?
Well, first thing I wanted to get off my chest is I did have a little bit of a draft crush on Jaron Hall, the young rookie quarterback out of BYU. That dude did not play well in this game. I wanted to state that first. It was kind of ugly, but Jordan Love, I think you got to be really excited right now if you're a Packers fan and what this could look like next year. And just as soon as next year, I think the Packers could potentially be competing like for a Super Bowl. Like they have the necessary means to go get this team and escalate this team into playoff contention. I think that they'll make the playoffs next week with a win. They're in. So I think Jordan Love's the real deal. I've been preaching it all year. I think that this team is lacking some solidified number one playmaker on. I think Aaron Jones can be that, but we don't know how consistently Aaron Jones can be out there. So, hopefully he can be, but in the receiver room, Christian Watson really hadn't taken that step. We kind of talked about that, but Jaden Reed, another guy I wanted to shout out, also a good baller. He's been playing good football, and it's kind of coincided with Jordan Love's good play. So Jaden Reed, 2 touchdowns in this game. Good team performance, a nice bounce back from this Packers defense. Did not look good last couple of weeks. Gave up 300 yards and a couple touchdowns to Bryce Young last week. So nice bounce back. Granted, it was Nick Mullins and Jaron Hall. Still, they got the job done and positioned themselves to be in the playoffs.
You got anything on this game, Christian, before we get out of here?
AJ Dillon, not a fan, bro. Not a fan. Not a good running back. I'm sorry. He's going to have to catch a stray, but golly, man. When I see him, man, all he does is run about 3 steps, lean forward, and fall down. So, man, but I will say these rookies, but rookie wide receivers as a Green Bay team has shown a lot of growth. And like Brian said, has shown growth with Jordan Love. So I ain't going to say next year they can be like up there with Super Bowl teams, but I think this defense needs a lot of help. I mean, they have good weeks, but we've seen some pretty bad weeks out of this defense. Yeah. And We've seen issues, with team captains not being who they're supposed to be out there. So, I think there's maybe some more lanes, not just in the building, but some more things that Green Bay has to work on before, we can really say, we've seen even with Aaron there, this is a team hard to get some of these big time free agents to come. So I think even with a Jordan Love, it's not going to be any easier without having an actual true owner. We talked about that many times, but I just think, definitely we can see them. I don't think Detroit's going to go anywhere anytime soon. So I think this division is really going to be Green Bay and Detroit for the next couple, maybe you can argue a couple years, at least I say for a 2 to 3 window. That's why I said 2 to 3 window. You could argue that it might be just Green Bay and Detroit, but I think we have to really wait before I say anything about Chicago to see their direction and quarterback. It's my big thing before I really say this team's ready to make, a couple steps forward. But on the Viking side, I mean, we talked about should they keep Kirk Cousins, but we've seen what this team's been without him at this point, and it's just not that pretty. And I mean, Ty Chandler had a big week last week. This week he didn't do anything against a Green Bay defense. It's not been that great. So, I mean, I don't know. Till you look back, I mean, the Vikings did beat Green Bay earlier in the year, but as we've seen with the growth of Jordan Love, I mean, they beat them and not easily, but I mean, they walked on them pretty nicely.
Yeah, I like that point on Kurt Christian. He's impending free agent. For me, the way Minnesota's season has fallen, they're not going to be in position to take an elite guy in the draft. Go ahead and pay Kirk Cousins, man. He seems to fit that locker room well. He has a great connection with Justin Jefferson. He may not be the guy to lead you to a Super Bowl, but he can give you a fighting chance and at least get you to the playoffs, and that's all you need is a seat at the table, and then anything can happen from there in playoff football. So that's my takeaway from Minnesota's season. They're still fighting technically for a playoff spot come week 18. And as I said, guys, we're going to preview each and every game for you come Wednesday. Have that released for you Thursday morning for NFL Week 18, final regular season week. I can't believe it's came, and it's been a fun one, guys. I've enjoyed every single one of these. We have one more preview show, one more recap show for you before we get to playoff football. So I just want to take a moment to thank all of the listeners who've followed us along the way, who's joined in any of these weeks. You've come along and been joining us for these previews, recaps, and takes episodes. We thank you, as always. Thank you for liking and following along on YouTube and getting that algorithm pumped up and trying to get this community grown as we've been making our effort and doing so all year. So as always, do us a favor, follow us on Twitter and follow along with our thoughts and takes on every NFL football team and mostly our own on that website. It's going to be at ChaseOwens96 for me. Christian is at C_Mills241 and Brian is at Sarver_Brian. Do us a favor, like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube page, the TikTok page. All that's Hot Route Takes. Rate, review the podcast itself on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And as always, we thank you and we'll catch you for the NFL Week 18 preview show come Thursday morning. Until next time, guys. Peace out.
Thank you,
Quick
Lamar.
shout out to those brothers in Bangladesh, Spain, United Kingdom, and India for the listens. Peace out.
International listeners, we love you. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.